This is Channel 7 News. Our top story tonight: acid levels in the Chesapeake Bay are going up, but something big is going down. More on this story at 8.
Chesapeake Bay is one of the East Coast's biggest and most valuable natural resources. From helping to regulate commerce with fishing and tourism, to being home to countless unique species, the Chesapeake is a resource that is imperative to much of the East Coast's well-being. Nonetheless, due to anthropogenic involvement, the bay is severely threatened. When fossil fuels go through their combustion reactions in order to fuel our cars and heat our buildings, they produce CO2 as a byproduct. The CO2 then enters the atmosphere and adds to the greenhouse effect. However, due to the fact that oceans are what's known as a carbon sink, meaning that they're really good at taking CO2 out of the atmosphere, this process is good for the atmosphere, but not for the oceans. When CO2 enters the ocean, a chemical process takes place known as ocean acidification and creates carbonic acid. This in turn lowers the pH of the ocean and the bay and threatens all wildlife, but especially those with calcium carbonate shells, such as oysters, crabs, mussels, and even plankton. Due to the fact that calcium carbonates are on the basic end of the pH scale, when they come in contact with carbonic acid, these shells and exoskeletons start to break down, causing the shells to weaken and leave these animals more exposed to disease and even death. This is an experiment that we did to show the effects of carbon dioxide in seawater. In both flasks, there is the exact same amount of water from the Chesapeake Bay as well as a universal pH indicator, which is the reason for the green color. As the flask on the left stays constant, the flask on the right is having a piece of dry ice added to it, which is simply just the solid form of carbon dioxide. Visibly, the color of the water changes almost immediately due to the fact that the reaction is causing the water to become more acidic. The chemical reaction shown in the experiment is a visual display of the reaction that happens when carbon dioxide is absorbed into the oceans. The oceans are supposed to absorb a certain amount of carbon dioxide, as they are still a part of the carbon cycle because CO2 still exists naturally without human industrial involvement. However, the anthropogenic usage of fossil fuels has made it so that the oceans and bays cannot process the amount of carbon dioxide being absorbed into them and simply cannot handle the sheer amount without adversely affecting it. The impacts of carbon dioxide pollution do not just stop at the atmosphere, and if measures are not taken immediately to mitigate these impacts, the entire world will be in grave danger. One environmental studies student at the College of VCU says, "The Chesapeake Bay is something that is incredibly near and dear to my heart, as I grew up right next to it and owe a lot of my passion for the environment to its proximity to my house. Over the years, I've learned a lot about the effects of ocean acidification and even talked to former Governor Northam about it in order to spread awareness about the issue to my local legislators. My hope is that one day, people won't have to advocate for environmental health. But until we stop going in the direction we're going now, I am happy to make that my job, and I hope you will too." This moving story has been brought to you by Channel 7 News, and we hope to see you bright and early tomorrow for the daily weather at 7.